This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. Hi, everyone again. My name is Dr. Bhavna Sharma. I just wanted to bring a message from Manoj sir before we start. Um, he has been unfortunately diagnosed with COVID-19 and is currently in hospital. So we're all praying for his very speedy recovery. He has assured us that he will be taking his reading part C session, which everyone has been waiting for with bated breath. So that is going to happen. But currently, the Sunday grammar sessions are suspended before he comes back from the hospital. So please send your prayers his way, and we'll get him back very, very soon. Okay. Um, just to give everyone an overview of why we decided to have this session. It's just that the writing checks that we have been doing during this week and even before, they've shown certain patterns of mistakes which are common amongst students. So everyone is making the same mistake. Because these mistakes are being made, we feel like it just might be beneficial that we cover them in one session. We do a short session and cover those mistakes. Because what happens is otherwise we're just repeating the same thing for each and every writing check that we're doing. What we want you guys to do is go through this lecture, go through with the common mistakes which everyone is doing. Once you've done that, your writing level is automatically going to improve, and then we can then start working on your writing in further detail. So we remove the roadblocks, the smaller roadblocks first, correct your writing to reach a passable level, and then we build you up so that then you can comfortably pass rather than passing borderline. Okay, but the mistakes that I have covered for OET writing in this session, if you work on these, it should bring your score up at least from a C plus to a borderline B, or a C to a C plus, because everyone makes these mistakes. Okay, so that's why I wanted to have this short session. Let's just start with what I'll do is I'll point to each mistake. If you are making this mistake, please don't feel like we're pointing fingers at you. It's just that we want to just learn from them and build up on our scores and hopefully pass the OET writing very, very shortly. Okay, right. So the first thing which people have been asking us over the past few weeks is about writing about medications on OET writing. Guys, just remember that generic medications, so your generic medications, so some people, they get confused in between what exactly is a generic medication and what's a brand name. Okay, so what happens is when companies, so generic medication is that when you go into a pharmacy and you ask for that medication, they'll give you the formulary name. Okay, so that just means like paracetamol. So lots of companies might be manufacturing paracetamol. So when you go to your chemist or you go to your pharmacist and you ask for that paracetamol, they'll give you paracetamol, the drug, but it might have certain names which depend upon the company who's manufacturing them. Okay, on the OET, which is what you're interested on, if you have generic names or you have the formulary names or the common names for medications, you're going to put that into small letters. Okay, so examples: metformin, atorvastatin, aspirin, paracetamol, clopidogrel, omeprazole, pantoprazole. So they're all formulary names. So you're going to be putting them in small letters. Brand names, however, so brand names is what the company is going to name the paracetamol which they're manufacturing so that they can differentiate their medication from their competitors. So paracetamol sometimes is called by the name of Calpol. So that if you see Calpol on your exam, you're going to put that into a capital letter. Eliquis is a name for apixaban. So some companies, one company, it manufactures apixaban, calling it Eliquis. Nurofen is another name for ibuprofen, which is manufactured by a certain company. Remember the insulins. If it's just insulin, that's going to be small letters. But insulins usually they come from certain companies, and all of them have different names. So Humulin M3 is a different company. Lantus is a different company. So all of them are going to be in capital letters. Top tip: if you don't understand what medication that is, it's likely that it's a brand name. So just put that into capital letters. So one mistake which everyone has been making this week: generic names in small letters and brand names in capital letters. Okay, so that's one thing. Let's move on to the second mistake that people make. Guys, when you're talking about test, okay, you always put a or a an before that. Very, very important. Why is that? Because the person might have that test at multiple points in their lives. So if you can do something multiple number of times, you put a or a an. Okay. That's the first time that you mention this. Okay. For example, Miss Smith was advised to take a pregnancy test. So Miss Smith can be taking the pregnancy test multiple times in her life. So that's why you're going to write Miss Smith was advised to take a pregnancy test. Okay, that makes it easy. One exception. Mr. Manoj did mention this in his lecture on articles. If you're still confused about articles, just go back to our YouTube channel. It's by the name of Teachio Academy, and you can go through Mr. Manoj's sessions. He did mention that when you think that the sound of the word, it sounds like it's beginning with a vowel. So like X-ray, okay? So if you listen to the sound, it feels like it's starting with an E. Okay, if you're getting confused by this, just remember this: X-rays, they're always preceded by an and not a, because that's because X-ray, it sounds like it would be written as EXRA. Okay, X like ex-boyfriend or ex-husband. Okay, so it's always an X-ray. Okay, all right. So that's one thing. Mr. Robinson needs an X-ray followed by a CT scan. Okay, very, very important, guys. I don't want you to make this mistake again. It's just really, really unfortunate that the OET is concentrating on not your medical knowledge, but on your English knowledge. Even though you guys know a lot more about X-rays and CT scans, the OET, the English teachers, are looking for these subtle points. Okay, just make sure you know that. Now, this is the first time that you're writing about the test on your letter. Okay, so when I first write about Miss Smith getting a pregnancy test, I would write Miss Smith was advised to take a pregnancy test. Now, the second time the test is mentioned, for example, I've talked about the pregnancy test first. I've said that there was a pregnancy test. Now, the second time I'm going to mention the pregnancy test, I'm going to be writing the pregnancy test was positive. Okay, or if we're talking about Mr. Robinson having his test, so I wrote, the first time I wrote, Mr. Johnson needed an X-ray or had an X-ray followed by a CT scan. So I'm going to be using a there. But when I talk about Mr. Johnson's test again, then I would write, the test revealed a new diagnosis of widespread malignancy. Okay. Top tip, sometimes we're going to be discussing this again. Some people, they like to write a widespread malignancy, but I'm going to discuss it in the next mistake that people make. Okay, so just stay tuned for that. What I want you to concentrate on is the first time that you mention a test, please make sure that you write a or an. And the second time you mention the test or you're talking about the test results, you're going to be writing the test. Okay, guys, if you've understood this, please type in yes, because this is a mistake that everybody does make, and it's just we want to avoid that in the future. So if you've understood the first two mistakes, just type in yes, and then I'll move on to the subsequent ones. Okay, good job. Moving on to our third mistake. Articles before a diagnosis. For people who can get or for diseases that someone can get multiple times in their life, you're going to be putting a. Okay, so a or an. So an aneurysm, a stroke. Mr. Johnson had a stroke in 2019. Miss Smith was diagnosed with an aneurysm in 2010. Okay, so very, very important that we pay attention to this, that when we're talking about diseases you can get multiple times in your life, you're going to be putting articles, okay, which are a and an, not the a or an. The first time that you mention it, Mr. Johnson had a stroke in 2009. The second time that you mention it, the stroke affected his mobility. Okay, so guys, if you understand the point, it's very important to pay attention to these subtle points on your OET, because that's what they're looking for on your OET. So the first time that you mention a disease that we can get multiple times, you're going to be writing a or an. And the second time that you talk about the same, you're going to be writing the. Flipping that back, if you have a disease that you can get only once in your life, once you have it, you can't have it anymore, or you can't get it multiple times. For example, diabetes. If you have diabetes, you're going to have diabetes throughout your life. So in that case, you're not going to be putting any articles. So she is known to have hypertension. She was diagnosed with hypertension in 2009. Okay, so it's not a hypertension or a diabetes or the hypertension or the diabetes. If you have something which is a chronic disease which you can get only once in your life, then you're going to be writing no articles. Okay. Now I talked about malignancies and I talked about cancer. Cancer, you can get multiple types of cancer. Okay, so you can get oral cancer, stomach cancer. So in that case, you're going to be writing Mr. Johnson was diagnosed with a cancer of the gut. Okay, or if you just want to write the whole thing without an article, you're going to be writing Mr. Johnson was diagnosed with um, advanced colon cancer. Okay, so sometimes people do like to write a, but just be careful around that. If you're writing if you're proceeding with just cancer, then you would have to write a cancer of the gut. But if you're writing the whole thing, if you're just writing if you're starting with the organ, then you can write Mr. Johnson was diagnosed with advanced gut cancer. So in that case, you don't have to write a. So SD has asked, diagnosed with gout or diagnosed with a gout. Okay, so SD, that's a good question actually. Um, so basically, someone is diagnosed with gout, but they get attacks of gout throughout their life. Okay, so gout is your chronic disease, which you're going to have throughout your life, but gout comes in attacks. So if you're talking about Mr. Johnson getting diagnosed with something, you're going to be writing Mr. Johnson was diagnosed with gout in 2009. And then if Mr. Johnson is getting attacks of gout, which he's going to get multiple times in his life, you're going to be writing Mr. Johnson had an attack of gout in March. Okay, so remember and the, a and an. So is going to be for things that you can get multiple times in your life. And is going to be for things you can get multiple times in your life, but they start with A, E, I, O, U. So SD, if you've understood that, please type in yes. So guys, just to revise, common mistake that everyone makes, chronic diseases, you're not going to be putting in articles, but if it's for things that you can get multiple times in your life, like attacks of gout, one more thing. For example, if someone is diagnosed with epilepsy, now epilepsy is your chronic disease. So we're going to write Mr. Jones was diagnosed with epilepsy in 2009, but with epilepsy, you get seizures, which you can get multiple times in your life. So you're going to be writing, he had a seizure in March. Or so, guys, if you've understood that, please type in yes, because this is a common mistake which does appear on your OET writing. SD, if you've please understood, please type in yes, and then we can move on. Okay, great. So that's one more mistake covered, which hopefully we will not be making again. Now, one thing that lots of people have been asking is whether we need to include the before a person's name. So when you're talking about people with a certain designation, so in a hospital, people have designations, or in a certain practice or in a medical center, people hold certain designations. And sometimes on your OET, you have to write a letter to people who have that designation. So in that case, you're going to be prefacing that with the. Okay, so the district nurse, the medical consultant, the chief nurse. Okay, so that's very, very important when you're talking about designations, because multiple people can hold that designation, but you are writing your letter to a particular person who is holding that designation, because it's a particular person. That's why it has a the prefacing it. Extremely important. So Navjot Singh has asked, The gastroenterologist. So Navjot, if you have a hospital that you're writing a letter to, you're writing the letter to a gastroenterologist who works in that hospital, but then they hold the designation of gastroenterologist. In that hospital, that might be the only gastroenterologist that they have. Just to make your life easy, if you have a profession or if you have a designation, just preface that with the, okay, because it would be extremely um, uh, uh, rude if you just write a gastroenterologist, Northwick Park Hospital, because that would sound a bit strange. If you're talking about designations, Navjot, just make your life easy and just preface that with the, okay, because you're talking about sending this patient over to the person who holds that designation, because it's to the person that holds that designation. So that makes you remember that I'm going to be just putting a the in front of it. So just type in yes, Navjot, if you've understood. Okay, ST, you're completely right. The admitting officer in emergency department. Very good. So we've understood that. So that's a very important thing that we need to know. All right. When you're talking about pain score, um, just preface that with the, because because when you would be writing this letter, when you're talking about this patient's pain, you would have mentioned the pain before. Okay. So when you're talking about the pain score, then you're going to be writing the pain score was described by the patient was 10 or out of 10 in severity. So pain score, always preface that with the and not a. ST, just to be polite, you should write, even if there's only one gastroenterologist, you should still write the gastroenterologist, because that's the designation that they hold. So whenever I'm talking about designation, the way that I'm talking about it is by prefacing that with the. That's the designation they hold. That's the designation which they have. So the gastroenterologist. Okay. Guys, if you've just understood that, please type in yes, because it's quite important that we cover this today. Okay, excellent. Now we're going to be moving on to the next mistake that people make. Guys, make your life easy. Don't confuse yourself. Use past tense when you're talking about examination, investigations, and vital signs. So your patient is going to come to you. You're going to examine the patient. You're going to do investigations, and you're going to do vital signs. At the time of writing your letter, everything is going to be in the past. Okay. So that's why just make your life easy and write that in past tense. So on examination, Mr. John had a soft, non-tender abdomen. His bloods revealed, notice that, a low hemoglobin. His blood pressure was low and his pulse was feeble. Please just type in the question that you have and I'm happy to answer it. Okay, so that's how we're going to make our life easy. When we're talking about things which happened when we examined our patient or investigated their complaint, we're going to be using the past tense. And that's the easiest tense to use. Why won't you use it? So please, if you already know the person's name and you're not writing the designation, um, it's fine. You can either write Miss Smith, the community nurse, or you can write Miss Smith, community nurse. If you know the person's name, there's no need to add the. Okay, so Miss Smith, community nurse is also fine. Miss Smith, the community nurse is also fine. But preferably, if you know the person's name, there's no need to add the. The will only be used when you don't know what the person's name is. SD has asked why a low hemoglobin. So SD, we talked about tests, and people can have multiple tests in their life. So I can have my hemoglobin checked multiple times in my life. So on this particular hemoglobin investigation, I was found to have a low hemoglobin. So that's why I'm going to be writing his bloods revealed a low hemoglobin. Whenever you're talking about tests that you're going to have multiple times in your life, you're going to be writing a. Susan, you can have surgeries multiple number of times. Okay. So he had an operation, or he had an appendectomy, or he had a open laparotomy. He had a surgery, because you can get surgeries done multiple number of times in your life. So just think about it. Just make your life easy. If you can get things multiple times in your life, then that's a. Okay. If you can get a thing only once, okay, then you're going to be writing a. Okay. Alicia, I was expecting that question, that somebody is going to ask about appendectomy. So Alicia, what you've actually written is appendectomy. That's a bit different from appendicectomy. I'm going to just get medical now. Appendicectomy is that the operation that you have. And appendectomy is when you put a hole and you drain the appendix. Okay. So even then, people do get multiple attempts at appendicectomy. So still just write he has had an appendicectomy. Okay, because surgery, the broad thing about surgery is, if you're confused, just use that rule, an appendicectomy, because we do have people who get appendicectomies. They get like a partial appendicectomy and then they get a full appendicectomy. So don't confuse yourself, just write before any surgery, an appendicectomy. Okay, an appendicectomy, a surgery, a hernia repair, a colostomy, and then what else can you get? A hysterectomy. Okay, so any surgery, because we can do it multiple times. You can do a hysterectomy, you can do it once and fail and then try again. So that's why any surgery, use articles. Okay, so that's that. Let's move on to social history. Guys, the social history still persists when you're writing your letter. Just make your life easy. When you're writing about social history and lifestyle, don't get confused. Just write present tense. Mr. Johnson is currently homeless. Mr. Jackson is still smoking 20 cigarettes a day. Just make your life easy. That being said, when you're talking about deterioration or improvement in a patient's status, you're going to be writing with regular use of paracetamol, Miss Baxter's pain score has improved. Okay. Despite thrice a day carers, Mr. Jonas has not been able to manage at home. ST, that's correct. Okay. So make your life easy. Past tense for the things that you did to the patient because they were done in the past when you're writing the letter. Social history and lifestyle persist when you're writing the letter, so that's going to be present tense, and present perfect tense for improvement or deterioration in a patient's status. Okay, that solves a lot of mistakes that students make when talking about tenses on your OET writing letter. Guys, if you've understood that, please type in yes, and then we will move on. Excellent. Okay. Now, one thing which when I mean, it's very difficult when you have people who are established doctors and nurses working in their country at high positions, and you tell them about basic punctuation on OET writing. It's extremely difficult and sometimes even embarrassing. But guys, remember, on your OET, the focus is on English, it's not on medical language. So silly mistakes like punctuation do bring down our students' score. So it's very, very important that we focus on it. Basic punctuation. If you don't concentrate on putting small letters and capital letters, and proper nouns should start with capital letters, or you miss out on commas and full stops, you're going to lose marks on your OET writing, which were avoidable mistakes and silly mistakes. So one top mistake that we do find amongst students who attempt the OET writing, because they're so caught up in content and clarity, basic punctuation is often missed out on. So what I always advise my students is that you finish your letter, give yourself 5 minutes just to revise the letter to see whether you're beginning all of your sentences with capital letters, whether all of the proper nouns are in capital letters, and whether you've actually put this sound. I know it sounds very patronizing that I'm teaching everyone this, but this does matter on your OET writing, and they are looking for these mistakes. You don't want to lose marks on this. So don't forget that when you're dividing the sentence, you're using commas, or when you're using certain connectors, you're using commas, and you're putting full stops after each sentence. Okay, this is a common mistake, and this brings down people's score, and it's very, very frustrating that we get such good doctors and such good nurses who can't come and work in the country of their choice just because of this. So ST, that's a good question. So ST has asked, what about family history and past medical history? So ST, when you're writing that letter, the family history still persists. Okay, the family history isn't now in the past. Okay, so if I have a family history, when I'm writing that letter, the family history is still there. Okay, so Mr. Johnson has a family history of coronary artery disease, because when you're writing that letter, he still has that family history. The family history hasn't stopped. I have the family history and I keep it with me when we're writing that letter. The past medical history, which I have, is still going to be there when I'm writing the letter. So I have a past medical history of a stroke. When my doctor is writing the letter, I still have that past medical history. So present tense. Okay. Mr. Johnson has a family history of diabetes. Miss Smith has a family history of epilepsy. Miss Smith has a past medical history of subarachnoid hemorrhage. Okay, so that's how we make our life easy, by just thinking about things logically. Okay, so SD, that's very good that you've understood, but that's a good question which a lot of people do get confused with. So basic punctuation, guys, wake your mind up when you're doing your OET letter. Please, please, please pay attention to basic punctuation. Okay. So the last mistake that people make, now the OET exam is a little bit erratic. There are certain rules on OET which won't immediately make sense to you if you're working as a doctor or a nurse, even in an English speaking country. Some connectors the OET site has told us not to use in writing. And if you use these, you're losing out silly marks. So connectors which you're just supposed to avoid, and it's a common mistake that students make. Don't use moreover, furthermore, meanwhile, nevertheless, and so on your OET writing. It's just a silly thing to lose marks on, but it's because it's on the website and on the official OET guidelines. Just do that and make your life easy. Just take a screenshot of this, because this is also a very common mistake that students make, and it's often not even their fault. It's just the OET exam has been structured like that, that they like certain connectors and they want us to avoid certain connectors. So that's the last mistake which people make on their OET writing. Hopefully you guys, if you were making this mistake on your OET writing, you're not going to make this mistake again. And all of us are going to now increase the scores that we are scoring on our OET writing, and hopefully be able to achieve a passing grade. Erin, what I meant to say was, what you see on this part of the screen, these are the connecting words that OET likes. So if you use these, they will like you and they will pass you. The connectors which they've told to avoid are which you see on this side of your screen. Let me get the pointer up just to. So these are the connectors you are to avoid. Okay, because that's going to cut down your scores. But if you use these, the ones that they love, they're going to like you. So please type into the chat window, because unfortunately my sound system doesn't really allow me to open your mics. So if you have any questions, please type in to the chat window. Okay. All right, so that was our session on the top 10 mistakes that candidates make on their OET writing, which hopefully none of you are going to make now. Guys, if you want to enroll for our writing check service, you can visit our website www.teachioacademy.com. Ours is the only academy which gets your writing checked by a medical professional as well as an English teacher, so that we can give you feedback which we as doctors or nurses feel like we might have felt. Okay, it's very difficult when an English teacher is giving you advice about writing medical letters, because they can't think about things from your point of view as medical professionals. So you should, if you want, you should enroll for our writing check service as well as our speaking check service, so that we can give you feedback and study plans which is based on our years of experience working as doctors and nurses in NHS UK. So do enroll for our writing and speaking checks. It should be extremely beneficial. Guys, group bookings are suspended as advised by the OET. If anyone, any person, academy or institute is telling you that they're going to do group booking for you, please be aware that the OET organization itself has suspended group booking. So you might not be looking at a very, very reliable service. So do not book any group bookings now because it has been suspended. Just be really, really careful about people. So peace. If you talk about multiple things, then you don't have to use a or an. A or an is used for singular things, okay? If you want to request a lot of home visits for Miss Harwood, then you're going to be writing, I'm writing to request home visits for Miss Harwood. If you want to request only one home visit for Miss Harwood, then you're going to use that article a or an. Okay, I am writing to request a home visit for Miss Harwood. So if you want one visit, then you're going to write a or an. If you want lots of home visits, you're going to not use the article a or an. Okay, guys, this is important. If you are using, if someone has a lot of strokes, you're not going to be writing Mr. Johnson has had a strokes. Okay, you're going to be writing Mr. Johnson has or has had multiple strokes. Okay, so no or and there. So very, very important that we remember this. Okay. So that's the session for today, guys. I hope you had fun, and I hope you learned. I hope that you learned something new today. And if you were making these mistakes, I hope you're not going to make them again. And I want to see everyone improving their scores after this session. So that's it. I hope if you guys are in the UK, just go out and enjoy the weather on this lovely bank holiday. But for everyone else, if you're still working, just get back to work. And I hope you guys keep safe and you keep having fun learning new things. And you come and join us in the UK quite soon. Okay. Erin, if you want to join Teachio Academy or you want to enroll for our sessions, I've given you a number. You can WhatsApp this number and or you can WhatsApp either the number on the screen or the number provided in the chat box to join our academy and enroll for our writing and speaking checks. So good luck, guys. Keep safe and keep studying.